It's a bit low energy.
A bit muted there, Lucas.
A bit low energy, Carl, to start there. I was just a bit off my game.
Just finish your coffee and you'll be fine.
You know, yeah, that's the thing. I've just, gone downstairs and made a coffee before recording this. I was like, Carl, I'm getting a bit tired. Just let me make a coffee and let me not do my intro. Just hello there and welcome to Wiki Weekends. It's no, Snap into it, Lucas. Well, welcome to Wiki Weekends, where we wind up a wiki, we take a deep dive, and we keep swimming until we find something fun to talk about. My co-host, as you could hear just then, is the lovely Karl Smallwood.
Hello.
As you can tell, me just being a bit weird with my wording there, I'm a little bit tired, but bear with, because we're talking about one of my favourite game series, characters, all that jazz today.
Is it something to do with Destiny?
No, it's not something to do with Pokemon either, Carl.
So it's the other one then, so it's Legend of Zelda.
Yeah, exactly right. This is just, what 3 games does Lucas really like playing? And then, of course, the answer's just, right now it's Astrobot, because Astrobot fucking rules.
So I can't believe they're using Astrobot, this small game, to promote. I can't believe they're using Deacon St. John to promote their shitty Astrobot game.
So do you want to just clarify that for a second?
Okay, so the director of Days Gone, which is the most serviceable 7 out of 10 someone played Last of Us and watched Sons of Anarchy while getting high game I've played in a half a decade.
It's good, but it's not anything 10 on 10.
No. The director of that has spent the last 3 years being salty that no one thinks the game is good. They think it's good, they just don't think it's as good as they do. Mm-hmm. And when Astrobot came out and they put in a little backwards baseball cap for Astrobot to look like Deke, he's mad of they're using my character to promote their small game. It's fuck off, Astrobot's awesome!
That's the thing, is he gets an actual little robot where you rescue. There's other robots in there that are Leon Kennedy and Dante and Solid Snake and Big Boss and Raiden and stuff, and they're showing the same reverence to Deacon St. John as they are Alucard.
But what they need to be doing is they need to be getting down on their knees and just praying thank you, Deacon, for coming in and saving us from your one game that is okay.
It's no Metal Gear Solid or Resident Evil 2.
No, Metal Gear Solid is no Days Gone. You get it right, my friend. What are we talking about, though?
We are, of course, talking about the Legend of Zelda series, as we mentioned, but Carl, it opens on this wiki page in a very just amusing little way, because it says, this article is about the eponymous character of the Legend of Zelda franchise for the video game series named after, see the Legend of Zelda series page.
So we're talking about Zelda today, then?
We are talking about Princess Zelda, but it's just very funny that before the wiki opens, this is about Princess Zelda, not about the Legend of Zelda. And it's just sum it up in one little sentence right there.
Probably one of gaming's most famous misidentifications, right? And everyone assuming that Link is Zelda.
Everyone assuming that Zelda is Link or Link is Zelda, and vice versa. Yeah. I think another one that's up there is another Nintendo franchise of just, why can't Metroid crawl?
Yeah, of everyone calling Samus Metroid, which is now kind of accurate.
For one game, she is a Metroid.
I've talked about this in a video that we didn't publish because we weren't happy with it, but if the next Metroid game doesn't open with an inversion of Super Metroid's intro, which is the last Metroid is in captivity, the galaxy is at peace, because now Samus is a Metroid, I want it to open with the last Metroid is not in captivity, the galaxy is at war.
Oh, you should just say, the galaxy is still at peace. Because it's just, fuck you, I'm Samus.
That's my theory for the next Metroid game is Samus is now the Metroid that's being hunted by other bounty hunters.
But you're not talking about Prime 4, which is set in a,
Yes.
It's the same timeline, but the Prime games are very removed from the 2D games.
Yes. I want the game directly after Dread to reference the fact Samus is now the last Metroid, and I want, I said the Super Metroid intro of just, the last Metroid is not in captivity. The galaxy is at war. So I just think that'd be a really cool nod to one of the early games.
It would be, yeah. And obviously, Super Metroid is still like one of the greatest video games of all time. So I think it's fair to reference it. And for anyone who's like a bit annoyed that it's like, oh my god, I can't believe you spoiled Metroid Dread, it's like, it's 2 years old at this point. You should have gone and played Metroid Dread at this point if you really care that much.
You really should have played Metroid Dread. Metroid Dread is so good. I replayed it over the weekend. I was hungover and I went, man, I forgot just how angry Samus gets.
Never forget, Carl, that when Metroid Dread first came out, I was commuting back and forth to record videos in Sheffield with you. And I was just like, Carl, I've beaten Metroid Dread like 10 times in the past 2 weeks. I can't be stopped.
Just every time you got the train, you just beat Metroid.
I was just sitting there learning speedrun techniques of I just want to keep playing more Metroid Dread, so I learned the speedrun.
I think the bit for me that I didn't even clock is like when she grabs onto Ravenbeak, she latches onto him like a fucking Metroid, and he's just like screaming like, get off, get off, get off. It's like Metroid. She's like, no.
But we aren't talking about Samus. And yes, for anyone who was wondering, occasionally there are videos that we record, and usually it's just, like, for example, as Carl mentioned, we talked about Samus in a video in it. We didn't get released because some crazy controversial reason. It was just, upon reflection, we were not happy with the video.
Yeah, which means that the videos that you see get put out, that's the good stuff.
Like, how bad must those videos have been if they can't meet our quality bar?
It's the standard, right, of like, whenever we get asked of, oh, is there a video you didn't release? It's always for very boring logistical reasons of like the video footage was bad, or we lost audio, or we just weren't happy with the discussions that we had. We didn't think it was interesting or entertaining.
There were a couple of videos that, upon reflection, I'm not happy about, but we had to make content, otherwise there just wasn't things going out that time.
Yeah.
So sometimes that does happen and we're not happy with it. Sometimes we're not happy with it and we're ahead on work and we can make that creative decision to just not put it out.
And then other times it's super controversial and we just like called out every other YouTuber.
We said just every slur. Every single one of them, Carl.
No, we just release it then, won't we? We get more popular.
We'd get cancelled and banned for like a week and then come back stronger than ever. We'll cut that bit, don't worry, Carl, and no one will know. We're going to leave
that bit in,
yeah,
but so people know that we have something that we cut.
Oh, but anyway, Zelda, traditionally Princess Zelda, is the eponymous character of the Legend of Zelda series, and it really threw me off because it's like including the times when they're referred to Zelda. You know, if you're curious, click on the link. It's down below in the description.
Yes.
It's like Zelda, SS, BOTW, EOW, CCT. It lists all the different times where like you can click on all these ones where they're called Zelda, and then like 3 whole lines down, it's like traditionally Princess Zelda. Loads more games listed. It's oh god.
Just something about like the Legend of Zelda franchise, right? It's the same story told from different perspectives and timelines, correct?
No, so it is different stories.
I thought it was like, but it's the same story repeating, right? It's like there's always like the hero of courage, the princess of wisdom.
Yes, but it's more because there's like this weird kind of curse that they retconned into Skyward Sword. Demise basically curses both Zelda and Link's bloodlines forever to be stuck in this loop of the spirit of Demise, which then becomes Ganon, coming back over and over again to essentially haunt them forever.
And isn't this something they just like made up in one of the books? Because for years, whenever the Nintendo would get asked, like, what's the Zelda timeline? We're like, we don't care.
Yeah, so I think this was back in around 2011 when Skyward Sword came out. Around that time, Hyrule Historia came out, and they just went, fuck it, here's the official Zelda timeline, so you'll all shut up. And they've implied that that was just to stop fans getting on the back about it. And since Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom have come out, things just make even less sense, and it's just these kind of are all a convergence of all three timelines, and it's all just a massive mess. And realistically, I think it's just Nintendo doesn't care, but the fans really fucking care.
And I can't imagine, it must be frustrating for them to deal with. We just want to make a new game. It's like, but how does this fit into the timeline? Like, it makes me think of like Star Wars, like every time Disney tries to make a new show, it's like, but how does Glub Shitto factor into it? It's like, we don't care about Glub Shitto. We just want to tell a new story. No, where's Glub Shitto? And it's like, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, I used to care, and when Hyrule Historia came out, I was like, oh my god, this is so interesting, and just as I've gotten older, and hopefully I would like to think wiser, I've just kind of stopped really caring, because at the end of the day, it doesn't factor into the games beyond if there's a direct sequel like Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom. Do they hold up? And the answer is still, even then, no. I told you about this not long ago, right?
It's, where did all the Guardians go, right?
Where did all the Guardians and that tech go? Because there's zero explanation anywhere in Tears of the Kingdom. It all just upped and disappeared. And they're like, well, it served its purpose and moved on from this world. It's like, what do you mean, Nintendo?
Do you know what? I respect that. Because I just respect the thing of, stop talking, shut up.
Yeah.
We don't care.
We didn't think about it. We just wanted to change up the enemy variety in the game, so shut up.
Yeah, I respect that more than trying to explain it, because like I would rather have them just hold their hands up and go, we don't care, than a convoluted explanation that just asks and raises more questions. Like the Star Wars approach of, what happened to Glub Shitto? Here's his movie. Rather than just like, we mentioned Metroid earlier. Oh, where did all of Samus's stuff go? It doesn't matter. She used it. It's done. Oh, God of War. Like when Kratos in Ragnarok. What happened to like your legendary endgame shit from the previous game? And Kratos says, "I used it."
Yeah,
and that's it.
It's armor and weapons. We were training. It all broke.
Yeah, it all broke. Every single last piece. It's all gone.
Like, what do you mean? Even like the armor forged by the gods themselves. Yep.
Yeah,
all gone.
All gone. A live action example where just Don Cheadle rocks up instead of Terrence Howard. I'm here. Get over it. Let's move on.
Hey, buddy. Didn't expect to see you here.
Look, it's me. I'm here to deal with it. Let's move on.
I just
Drop it.
All right.
Carl, do you not want to know how Han Solo got his name?
No.
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 Like, I never watched through the original trilogy and went, yeah, this is all great and fine and whatever, but how the fuck did Han Solo get his name?
I don't have people. I'm alone.
Solo.
Do you know it's because he flies solo, Lucas? Which is actually, it's like, for fuck's sake. It's
like, really?
Also he wore the same outfit for 90 years.
Yeah, apparently.
He never changed his outfit. He wore the same outfit every day.
Which canonically means that he probably smelled even worse than Chewbacca did.
The best Star Wars example is Ben Kenobi in the first trilogy, right? Where he's wearing those like weird robes.
That was meant to be a disguise in the desert so no one would know he's a Jedi called Obi-Wan Kenobi.
But then they made that the official dress of Jedi for some reason, which makes no sense.
And I know that they've now retconned it so that it does make sense, but
of course they've retconned it again.
I know that there is going to be someone in the comments telling us the explanation, but like, again, it's just retcons upon retcons of just, why do you need to give a shit?
And here's my question to the people that care about this sort of thing. Does it help? If anything, it makes me more annoyed, because like I'd rather have no explanation than a bad explanation. And that's why I just, like I said, I respect, and especially the commitment to not giving an explanation, like with the Zelda series of, what's the timeline? It doesn't matter. But I want to know. It doesn't matter. What happened to the Guardian technology? It served its purpose. This is a new game.
We got the official timeline in Hyrule Historia, which 6 years later, Nintendo just basically threw away by releasing Breath of the Wild anyway, because they just don't really care that much. They are not slaves to the timeline.
Yeah, we don't want to be handcuffed to games and media made 30 fucking years ago, because it will hamper our creativity now, and then they just glare over at Disney.
the same way that, like, they've made the first game in the timeline, like, 4 different times, because that way they're just not restricted by all the shit that they've got to pay attention to.
And that's the problem that you get into, right? So we mentioned, like, the Metroid series earlier, of, like, how many Metroid games are set before Super Metroid, which came out 25 years ago, because the ending to Super Metroid is so important to the timeline that they can't mess with it. So they have to keep making prequels upon prequels upon prequels, which just now makes Super seem weird. It's like, okay, so Samus had all this bullshit like before Super, but she never used it, and it starts, and then more questions appear, and it's like, I see why they're saying, fuck it. It happens at some point in Samus's past.
And Carl, interestingly enough, you mentioned that every single Zelda game is just the same story retold, which it kind of feels like it at times, again, because the main trio is like constantly recurring, but it does mention here that there is an exception to that rule here, where just there is a few games where Zelda doesn't appear as part of the main cast, where it is Link's Awakening, Majora's Mask, and Triforce Heroes just lack an incarnation of Zelda or one of her alter egos, such as Tetra.
This is where you blew my mind when we talked about this a few years ago, I think, of because I'm not the biggest like Zelda fan. I'm aware of the series via its just stellar reputation, but I never really owned many Nintendo consoles, save like a GameCube, and I certainly couldn't afford to get any of the Zelda games for that. Until like Breath of the Wild like really drew me in, and when I think I innocently asked you once, like, so Zelda is like, it's the name on the box. Has she ever been playable? And you're like, no.
Well, Carl, that's where we get Echoes of Wisdom coming out.
Which does look good, right?
You can create wooden boxes, old beds, and unusual things like water blocks. How you use them separately or together is entirely up to you.
It looks great, and it's obviously inspired me to make this video because it should be coming out around roughly the time the game comes out.
I'm so excited because like, all I've seen from that is just the bullshit of like, okay, here's Zelda literally throwing everything, including the kitchen sink, at an enemy.
And obviously Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom have had elements of just, you can kind of do whatever you want to break the game, and this feels like it could be pushing that even further, because just it seemingly has like zero limits upon what Zelda can do, but we will find out more when the game comes out.
How you solve puzzles and battle enemies will change depending on the echoes used. In short, we've created a game where each player's experience will be different.
Like that first trailer came out and everyone was like, oh my god, the bed. The bed on bed on bed technique.
Everyone just saw that and immediately went, okay, let's fucking go and start drawing the fan art. It reminds me of like when Final Fantasy VII Remake came out, and everyone was just all in on like, okay, Aerith with a chair, Cherith, let's go. To the point where the voice actress did the cosplay of Cherith.
Yeah, how strong would that be? Just Zelda coming in with the steel chair.
It'd be so good. Imagine it.
Because that's the thing is, you know, it does mention here that she is often the possessor of the Triforce of Wisdom, and in many games she has magical abilities of different varieties and different powers.
She's ridiculously powerful, right? Like, she's holding back all of Ganon's power in Breath of the Wild, right?
Yeah, for like 100 solid years, where just Link's off side questing and Zelda's, Link, I could really do with having a hand over here. I've been battling Ganon for 100 years.
Link. I'm sorry, but my power isn't strong enough. I can't hold it.
And that's like why I found was so surprised that she's never been a playable character, because she is so ridiculously powerful. And one of my biggest frustrations, I know it's an old series, I know it's based on those tropes of like the hero rescues the princess. The fact she'd never been playable was just so surprising to me. Of like, in all these years, there's never been like a spin-off. Like Princess Peach got her own spin-off.
Princess Peach! In this action game, she slashes, sings, sleuths, and so much more with show-stopping transformations.
And I am very happy that the time we get a proper playable just actual Princess Zelda main character is that Zelda is the main character. It is The Legend of Zelda game. It's not a Princess Peach fucking spin-off. It's just, no, this is a mainline game. You are Zelda either all of the time or the majority of the time. There are like hints that maybe you play as Link for a little bit, but it is mostly just, no, we are committed to mainline Zelda games starring Zelda as the main character.
And she's just apparently just unbelievably powerful, as we always knew that she was.
And there's definitely sliding scale of power depending on which different version of the game you're talking about, but generally she's always seen as some kind of like possessor of either the Triforce of Wisdom or a bunch of spells, or both. And it would be hilarious of Ganon just expecting Din's fire or some shit you're gonna throw at me, and she just comes in with like the chair.
I always found it baffling when I've watched you play through Zelda games, how little personality Zelda actually has. Because she's a plot point, right? She's a plot device.
It's very dependent on which game you are talking about. There are games like, for example, Ocarina of Time, where Sheik and Zelda have way more character and play a lot more of a main role. For example, Wind Waker, where she disguises herself as Tetra, and Tetra has a bunch of personality. But then there's others, like in, I think it's the original Legend of Zelda, where she is literally just asleep on a table to rescue at the end of the game.
Yeah, like she's a plot device in most of the games in a series named after her. And like the joke that I've made multiple times is that she has more personality in Smash Bros than she does in a lot of the games bearing her name. At least in Smash Bros, like I adore the way her characterization is got through her actions, like just her up air, where she just does like a little finger snap and shoots a little explosion of fire out of her finger. Yeah. And if you go into like the camera zoom and look at her face, she's smiling as she does it. She's just like, ha ha, because she's having fun.
One of the taunts where she just laughs and waves at people and she murders them. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate has a fantastic both characterization of Zelda and just the design of Zelda in that game as well. It's fantastic. And just before we continue on talking about Zelda, we've mentioned that she's never been playable. I am aware that the Philips CDI games exist and that Zelda was playable in some of them, but they are not part of the mainline The Legend of Zelda series. They are just shitty Philips spin-offs that are not really something to Nintendo associate themselves with.
They've never referenced it, right? To my knowledge, Nintendo have never referenced them. Like they went to the point they referenced the TV show with like the Link bomb jump tech, but they've never referenced those CDI games.
As far as I'm aware, they haven't, and there might be some little nod somewhere that I can't remember or haven't played the right game, because there are a couple of games in the series that I've not played yet, which is the entire reason I started doing the Tunic Tuesdays on my channel anyway, was well, I'm going to go through every single Legend of Zelda game one by one and make sure that I've not just played every single game, but I've played every single game in the last couple of years, so that way I've got, you know, a fresh memory of them all. But yes, I just wanted to put in that caveat of, I know there's going to be comments of people going, well, technically she's playable in the CDI games, or technically she's playable in Smash Bros. Or Hyrule Warriors. It's like, okay, in the mainline The Legend of Zelda games.
And I said, for me, it's just something I found surprising. In a series bearing her name that has existed for like 3 decades at this point, the fact that there's not even been playable, because that was the rumour for Tears of the Kingdom, right? Like, you're going to play Zelda rescuing Link, because that'd be an easy way to explain the loss of powers.
Yeah, I remember so many of the theories going around of, I think it was the first Tears of the Kingdom trailer where they didn't show Link's face and Link had longer hair.
Yep.
And they kept showing like back views of what could be considered Link, and then people were, oh, maybe that's actually Zelda, but it looks a little bit like Link, or maybe they're doing like this weird thing where in the trailer they're using the character model for Link, but then actually in the main game they're gonna swap over and dupe us all, and it's like, no, it was just Link.
Also a shame as well because the design of Zelda in like Tears of the Kingdom is really strong.
The Breath of the Wild Tears of the Kingdom design is great, yeah.
Yeah, like her just casual Friday Zelda, and it's like, damn, or why was she not playable in DLC?
Obviously, if they were gonna do a Zelda like we're seeing in Echoes of Wisdom, they'd want to do a completely different kind of playstyle.
Yeah.
I've been trying to stray away from the trailers and stuff to try and minimize the amount of extra stuff that I see after watching the initial trailer. I think there is some kind of thing where she does play with a shield and sword in some section, so it's going to emulate how it plays like a bit more traditionally, but I think that's a more minimal part of the game. I'm not quite sure because I'm trying to avoid knowing.
I hope that like she gets the sword for like 5 minutes and says this sucks, and then just summons again the Spirit Bomb of Steel Chairs. And just launches it at Ganon and is like, why do I need this?
Because I heard a lot of people saying that they really would love, oh, you actually play as Zelda in the overworld, and then you go into this other portal world where like Link gets strapped in at the start, and you play as Link for half of the game. I was like, no, I really hope they don't do that, because I just want them to commit to one game being the Zelda game.
Yeah, it's like, I think it's what they should call it, the Legend of Link. It should be called the Legend of Link, just for like the ultimate in like just inside jokes.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned and kind of alluded to really early on is that these games are almost stories being told, and that's kind of true and not true in the games. Like, you are playing through the games as presumably they happen, but I do kind of enjoy the reading of this isn't exactly necessarily how it went down. This is just the legend of that story and how it's been translated over the years. And I love, for example, that you get what is probably the story of Ocarina of Time, but again, it's a bit vague at the start of Wind Waker, where it's this cool tapestry telling a story of how the great hero arrived and defeated Ganon, but then later Ganon returned and there was no hero because they'd gone back to their own timeline, and then just the world got thrown into disarray and ended up being drowned by the gods. And I love the idea of just not taking it one for one, more like the idea that it's an unreliable narrator that the games are.
Yeah. It's literally called The Legend of Zelda, and a legend, by its definition, is not going to be an accurate retelling of events. So we always talk about how I would love it if in one game just Link was a girl. Because, or, they give the option to choose, because ultimately it's the legend. The only thing they know is like a great hero arose and saved the day. We don't know what that hero looked like, we don't know what they got up to.
Generally, although it does obviously change with Breath of the Wild Tears of the Kingdom, most of the time it was just a hero garbed in green showed up and saved the day.
Yeah, and that's why you have like the existence of Linkle, right? Where they pretend to be the great hero.
Or they want to be the great hero, so they dress up in the green tunic and go, no, I'm definitely the hero. And it turns out that they weren't the hero. They're still pretty badass, but ultimately, no, you're not the chosen hero, Linkle. You just really wanted to be.
Oi, oi.
Yes.
And the fact that people often mistake Linkle for Link, I think goes to show, it's like, ultimately Link's gender doesn't really matter, and they were intentionally designed to be an androgynous character anyway, so maybe how big a deal it'd be if they changed it is debatable. I just always thought, the series being called The Legend of Zelda suggests that, you don't have to, you can play as fast and loose with this canon and idea as you want, and the fact they've not done it more is surprising to me.
You mentioned that they're very androgynous looking, and some people are going to hear that statement and be like, oh, I don't like that idea, but it's very funny to me that, A, they definitely are. You could definitely make Link a girl quite easily. They are relatively androgynous, but it's just very funny as well that so many people I know that are attracted to video game characters, it's always the androgynous ones. It's always the Link, the Dante, the Leon Scott Kennedy. It's just the floppy hair. That's what, ultimately, apparently that's what they want, the floppy hair.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like, and it's not just us saying that, it's the character designers behind the Legend of Zelda series have talked about how they intentionally made Link androgynous in appearance, and they don't mind if people interpret Link as being female, because ultimately the gender does not matter. What matters is that they're courageous, and they're happy with that interpretation, although they will clarify that in canon Link is male, but ultimately it doesn't matter.
Which kind of makes it more frustrating that they won't commit to just giving you the choice of, do you want Link to be male or female or non-binary?
But they never change how they look, right? Because that's the thing, like, Link looks better in the female outfits in the newer games anyway.
Oh.
And we'll move on here to some of the abilities that Zelda possesses here, Carl. Because,
tell me that, yeah. Like, just near unlimited magical power, I imagine.
Yeah, it talks about like physical appearance and personality, but that ranges wildly between each different iteration of Zelda. And obviously, I did mention that the abilities also do range, but again, it gives us a bit of an oversight of just what potential each Zelda might have, because it's kind of implied that each and every Zelda possesses the potential power set of the others.
Was it they get like their power directly from like the goddess, right?
Well, in some incarnations, it's implied that they get the power of the gods, and I know, for example, in Skyward Sword, it's essentially that they are the re-embodiment of the goddess Hylia. It's like they are kind of a god or goddess, but they're kind of not at the same time.
Yeah.
Throughout the long-time series, Princess Zelda portrays various types of both magical and physical abilities, ranging from capably wielding a bow to telepathy. And
thing is, do you need to wield a bow if you can just move the arrow with your fucking mind?
That's the ultimate bow, is just Zelda becomes the bow.
Like I said, she can also like just infuse any aspect of her body with magical power. Like the fact that her back hair in Smash Bros, she just infuses her heel
just with magic, yeah, fuck you.
With this like magical energy and it has a sweet spot on it.
I still just love the down air, but I love the specifically when you get like the non-sweet spot.
The soft one. And
instead of just spiking them to the absolute depths at Mach 3, you just give them a light little tap and just knock them down slowly and
Like I said, everything about her design in Smash Bros is money, and I want her to be a playable character in another game. Because like just, again, the effortlessness with which she just styles on people, because she just has like nigh unlimited power, and it's the first time. I know like the Smash Bros games aren't canon, but the characterization is generally quite accurate to the original games that they hail from, because it kind of has to be. Just the fact that she's like, this is the first time she's actually been able to have fun.
Yeah.
Right? It's like Mario Kart, right? Of, hey, Mario would just, rather than having to save the day, can just go and play go-karts with his brother.
That's one thing that really annoyed me about the fact that we never got a playable Tetra in any of the Smash Bros games. And I know that Tetra is literally only in Wind Waker and only in half of Wind Waker, but the same applies to Sheik. Sheik is literally just in Ocarina of Time for half of the game, and we get Sheik 3 different times in the Smash Bros. It would be great to have a character that is as fun and cool and personable as Tetra in a situation where they weren't in just this world-ending peril.
As I said, it's just nice every now and again to see Mario get to play go-karts with his brother, or play tennis.
I'm surprised they haven't leaned more into with the likes of Mario Kart and the Mario Sports series, is just make them all Nintendo Kart and Nintendo Sports.
I would like it if just, maybe not for everything, but the stuff that Nintendo owns out fucking right? Like, hey, just, I know they put Link in like the Mario Kart games, put Zelda in as well.
That's the thing, we are getting to a close point where there are literal, like, there's Animal Crossing tracks, there's F-Zero tracks, there's F-Zero cars, and like there's Inkling, and there's Villager and Link and stuff in Mario Kart. So we're getting there, and the theory every single time for the past like 10 years has just been, well, the next Mario Kart is definitely just going to be Nintendo Kart.
It should be, but Mario Kart's too strong a brand.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think it's going to evolve into that, but just keep the name Mario Kart because
Mario Kart is like what, literally decades upon decades of like goodwill and brand recognition. You'd be stupid to not take advantage of that. But at the same time, just give me Zelda Kart.
That's one of the things I just loved about Hyrule Warriors as well. It's just getting to enjoy all these characters and the goofy side of a lot of them as well, where just it doesn't really matter. It's just a fun spin-off. Give me more fun spin-offs of Zelda games.
Isn't that the one as well where just like you see Link eat a rock? Like, where he's like, I know those games aren't canon, but Link eats a fucking rock, and it's like, yeah, I bet I could do that.
No, Link eats a rock roast in Breath of the Wild. It's canon.
Oh, okay. What is it that happens in like? Is it the laser deflection?
The laser deflection with the pot lid is the non-canon one. Yeah.
Even though it's Link can do that.
Well, it's canon. It's canon because I did it in the game, right?
Yeah. So my opinion on stuff like that is unless a character gets hit in a cutscene, it's canon that they never got hit. So my canon version of, like, say, Samus is that Samus never gets hit at any point during any Super Metroid game or any of the Metroid series. Except for when Mother Brain hits her in the cutscene or Ravenbeak grabs them. Up until that point, they've never been hit. That is always my headcanon. Of just unless it happens in a cutscene, everything else is to assume to have happened flawlessly.
Well, it's the Nathan Drake thing, isn't it? If anyone's unaware, when you're getting shot, quote unquote, in the Uncharted games and taking damage, the red is just Nathan Drake's luck running out, and then when he gets shot, he dies.
Yep, he can only take one bullet, but throughout those games, he's never been hit once.
And he probably has at this point in a cutscene been like shot in the leg or something, right? All those times it's like, well, Nathan Drake took like 300 bullets in this one mission. It's like, he didn't. For the sake of gameplay, he did, but for the sake of story, he didn't.
Yeah, it's like in my head, like my canon version of Samus is not speedrun Samus. It's when they like do a tool-assisted run where it's perfect, flawless Samus. That's my headcanon for how Samus actually completed all of her missions. The other way, it's just like absolutely flawless movement, and she can just teleport and it runs around like 1 HP the entire time.
Doesn't need more than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, early on in the timeline of the series, the original Zelda, while born as a Hylian, is the mortal incarnation of the goddess Hylia. Carrying on this divine blood, her female descendants are always the crown princess of Hyrule throughout its history. Several princesses within the bloodline are also the possessor of the Triforce of Wisdom, imbued with the essence of the goddess Nehru. It's a pretty, tropey thing, right? But I do enjoy that just Zelda has wisdom, Link has courage, Ganon has power.
Yep.
And it's just with courage and wisdom you can overcome pure power.
The thing is, though, Ganon doesn't need that. Again, I've seen him in fucking Smash Bros. And I've seen when he lands those 2 feet. Because I'll never forget one of the funniest things. I think just me and you had this moment of like mental fusion. I think we were streaming playing Smash Bros. And someone was saying that, I think that Ganon needs to be redesigned. To have like his moveset from another game. And me and you both just simultaneously went, no. Ganon's perfect because he's so perfect because he's just Captain Falcon, but fuck it, I'm just going to put all my stats into power. And he gets across his personality so well that he just the 2 foot. I don't need any of my swords or my magic. I'm just going to kick your ass with my bare fucking hands.
And I do like the ultimate version, which gives you the sword for the smashes, but ultimately keeps most of the moveset as just the copy of Captain Falcon's.
See, I hate the fact that he whips the sword out because it makes his taunt not work, because I love that one of his taunts is he pulls out the sword and then puts it away of like as if to say, I don't need this to kick your fucking ass. Because there's always that thing of like, why doesn't Ganon use his sword? No, he had it all along. but he doesn't want to use it because he doesn't need it.
Yeah, it definitely does ruin that taunt, but, maybe if Ganon had embraced the sword earlier, he might have not been bottom tier as fuck.
He was literally in his own tier in, Brawl, right?
He's so bad in every game because ultimately Smash Bros. Is just not won by the really slow characters.
It's not, but I just always enjoyed that reflection of his personality. And again, I know it's not canon, but I feel like if Ganon was transplanted from his universe into the Smash Bros. Universe and was told, hey, this is just a fun brawl to see who's the toughest, it's a friendly competition, Ganon would be that guy of, I'm not going to use my sword. I don't need it. So, same as when Sephiroth rocks up. Of I'm going to chase Cloud to another fucking dimension to style on him here too.
That would be terrifying as Cloud. It's finally I get to just have a fun little time, fighting Mario and stuff, and then Mario gets fucking murdered by Sephiroth. It's oh no!
Again, the idea of Sephiroth rocks up and he's like, okay, you're not allowed to kill anyone here, but I'm still going to show you that I could have, right? That's why he does it.
Never forget, Carl, he does kill one person in Smash Bros, and it's the actual...
The final boss.
The final boss. The introduction of Sephiroth in that trailer of just... Someone cut the final boss in half. You know the thing that in the started intro killed everyone at once but Kirby? Sephiroth just...
But then he goes, you know what, I'm not going to kill you. I could have done that to any of you guys, but we're going to make it a fair fight. Same as Ganon of if I whipped out this sword, I'd fucking annihilate you, but let's do it with my bare hands.
This essence of Nehru grants her a myriad of mystical abilities, Carl, including the ability to heal others, though there is a possibility that this could also be an effect of her bloodline passing down Hylia's own powers and later the Light Force. So it's kind of just... Zelda has a myriad of abilities. Some of it is because she's basically a goddess. Some of it is because she has the Triforce of Wisdom. It's she's a god plus a god. It's what do we do?
Yeah, double god, let's go.
There's a lot of abilities that she does have, but we spent a long time just talking random shit. So we're quickly just going to go to the naming tradition of Zelda herself and just the origin of it.
Okay.
So it was revealed in The Adventure of Link and confirmed by Hyrule Historia that when the Kingdom of Hyrule was established during the Era of Prosperity, the daughters of the royal family were often named Zelda after their ancestor.
See, that's a bad time as well, because when you know your ancestor was born in the Era of Prosperity, it's so we're not in the Era of Prosperity anymore.
Yeah.
Right? It's like us, isn't it? We refer to the past as, before the dark times. That means we're in the dark times now.
Yeah, they were often named after their ancestor, the mortal incarnation of the goddess Hylia from the events of Skyward Sword, but then it also has the tragedy of Princess Zelda 1. So just, while she was not actually the first Princess Zelda in the history of Hyrule, the Zelda that's asleep in the first Legend of Zelda game, she was the first in a long line of princesses to be named Zelda by law and not tradition, after she was put in a deep sleep for many generations. Her brother, the Princess of Hyrule, at the end of its golden era... Imagine knowing that it's the end of the golden era. It's
hey man, we could be in the platinum era. Don't take it away from me.
He was partly to blame for her comatose state and decided that in honor of his sister, every single princess born into the royal family of Hyrule should be named Zelda. So there's just something thrown in there to explain. So are all these Zeldas the same Zelda? Are they different Zeldas? It's just... No, her brother accidentally helped make her comatose. He felt guilty as fuck. And then made it law that every single Zelda's got to be named after her. Just that's how badly you fucked up, Carl.
Yeah.
You know you fucked up when you put your guilt into fucking written law.
It's why should I have to deal with your fucking problem? Right?
Dear, I could talk a long, long time about Zelda and Princess Zelda and I'm sorry that we didn't get more specific into the character, and we've gone on long rants, but I love the series, I love the character, and I'm so glad that we're finally actually getting to play Zelda, and I really hope Echoes of Wisdom lives up to the, rest of the series, because it would be such a shame if, like, the first game where you get to play as Zelda is just, like, maybe a bit less impressive than the rest of the series, but fingers crossed, eh?
It's more like, I just cannot wait. Do you like in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, where people are like, oh hey, look, here's just like I've made Metal Gear Ray. The bullshit. I want to see what bullshit people are going to do with those new powers.
Can Zelda make a mech in Echoes of Wisdom? We'll find out.
No, she won't need to make a mech. What she'll do is she'll lift the mech up and beat you to death with it. So I've seen all the fan art of her like, oh, give her a gun. It's like, why would she limit her power?
I just love
if you gave her a gun, she can only kill one person at once. If you let her use like, why doesn't she just make the spirit bomb of guns?
I just love the idea that, well, she can make an echo of anything. Why doesn't, in the final boss fight, when she, like, goes to fight Ganon, why doesn't she summon just 8 echoes of Link? And it's like, just fight an army of Links this time, Ganon.
Imagine that, though. Imagine if, like, Joe, like, when Aragorn's, like, gets the ghost army.
Yeah.
And Zelda should do it, though, the ghost army of Links, but specifically, it's Link from Smash Bros, but it's, like, the level 9 AI. Just do, like, level 9 fucking AI against Ganon.
Goddamn. Ganon can't stop one Link, how could he stop 1,000?
See, imagine how powerful.
It would be too powerful, but anyway, thank you all for watching. Let us know in the comments what your favourite iteration of Zelda the character is, and whether that be in mainline games or spin-offs or, alterations of the character like Sheik or Tetra. Just let us know down below, and thank you everyone for watching.
Cheers!